and Ty Englebright in studio this morning to talk about everything sports. It's the Sideline Report on your hometown radio station, WPKY, The Tiger. And good morning at 9:04. It is the Sideline Report. Ty Englebright with Todd, Griffin. Good morning.
Good morning. The best thing about we're back in the studio and it's nice and warm.
It's pretty toasty in here, and I'm kind of glad because I tell you what, I'm not much on this cold weather. Are you?
No, I'm not a big cold weather fan. I try not to complain during the summertime when it's so hot because even if it's 100 degrees, you can still get out and do something. You know, drink some water, find some shade, but you can do things. It's difficult to go outside and do anything when it's 5 degrees outside.
It's just no fun.
It's so cold it hurts.
It's so cold it hurts. I was out a minute ago before you got here, and I threw my cold coffee out there, and I watched it freeze, you know, and it's faster than cars rusting.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty amazing. I can see it right there right now. Just kind of, there it is. It's frozen.
But, we haven't been in studio for a while. We taped our show 2 weeks ago, and then we went on the road to the Cab Gym last week. So
and was that
fun to be back in the studio?
Not? Yeah. Be taking our show.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. And that was the day of the West Kentucky Hoops Classic, and we'll get into all that good stuff. It's
that was a lot of basketball.
A lot of good basketball.
Yeah, it was.
And what a great event. Kudos to the organizers, the sponsors, because it was a good 2 days of basketball.
14 games, and it's really difficult to get all that organized, but for the most part, everything stayed on time. Not really many problems, and like I said, especially the second day, the games the second day, I think were better than the first day, just the way the matchups turned out. I wondered that first day if we were ever going to have a close game. I think there was one kind of buzzer beater the first day, but the second day, all those matches just seemed like they were really close games, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and some of those teams play above the rim, and it was fun to see some of the athleticism of those athletes and a few dunks and alley-oops, and that's always fun.
Even the girls' games were competitive. I found it weird that, the Lady Tigers lost their opener to Ballard Memorial, which I thought was the game they had the best chance to win.
I know.
And then they come back the next 2 days, or the next day, and win those 2 games on Friday, beating Callaway County, which I really kind of thought was the best team in it.
Yeah.
And then beating Corinth, Mississippi, which was really athletic team. So that was a good bounce back from losing that first game. And the weird part about that was the Lady Tigers played so well the first half against Ballard Memorial and then didn't play at all in the second half. It was kind of hard to figure out. But 2 really good wins, and Lady Tigers now 8-4. And let's be honest, going into the season,
you wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure they, no disrespect, but with a really young team, I wasn't sure they'd win 8 games all season. And now they're sitting 8-4, and I think have a chance to, win tonight against Dawson Springs. That game's out at the Cab Gym, varsity first at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
And the All-A Classic is coming up in a couple of weeks, and I think the Lady Tigers are one of the favorites in that.
I think they'd have to be.
At this point, though, if you look at the teams in it, almost everyone's a favorite. I think it's the first time I can remember that the All-A Classic has been so wide open that you look that Caldwell County could win it, Lyon County could win it, Livingston Central has played well at times. Yeah. UHA is certainly good enough to give it a run. So Crittenden County could win that thing. I mean, just anybody that's on the girls' side. On the boys' side, I think UHA is going to be a pretty heavy favorite, but Caldwell County is playing well right now, so we'll see how that goes too.
Yeah, the Tigers up in Dawson night before last. Was it? Yeah, night before last. Yeah, and really took it to the Panthers up there, and wasn't even close.
A big 76-39 win for Caldwell County, and the Panther gym has been a tough place for Caldwell County to play over the years. The Tigers have taken some really good teams over there and left with a loss. Mm-hmm. So you never want to. I mean, Dawson's struggling just a little bit this year.
Right.
It's not that they don't have some players. I think they've just struggled for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. A lot of teams that are more athletic than them give them some problems, but they can shoot the ball, they can handle the basketball, and you get them in their gym and they start making shots, you can be in trouble.
Yes.
Fortunately for Caldwell County, they were able to put some pressure on them and never really let Dawson get a lot of good looks. And the Panthers didn't shoot the ball really well, and the Tigers did shoot the ball pretty well, and Caldwell County was able to blow that game open early and really able to rest the starters the last quarter and a half of that ball game.
Yeah, and that's probably a good thing. I mean, and then, coming up, we've got Saturday doubleheader out at the Cab.
Oh yeah, the 6th district, 7th district challenge.
Yeah. Two good teams coming in here, Webster County
and Union County and Hopkins County Central will play before that.
That's right.
And then I think the Caldwell games, the girls is at 3, and the boys is at 4:30. I'm not sure if the original schedule
it doesn't.
had those times.
I'm glad you said that, because I think I had not done my promotion for that 3, and so we're going to do 3 and 4:30.
That's my understanding. That's the times that are up on the KHSAA site right now. So
okay,
that's what I'm going with for right now.
I'm going with you, man. I'm going with you. I mean, all that spells go with Todd.
Well, actually, we need for those games to be at 3 and 4:30 because later on Saturday you've got the Kentucky Wildcats are playing Tennessee at 8.
Yeah, how come? Yeah.
And of course I almost said the St. Louis Rams, but the Los Angeles Rams are playing that night.
Yeah, you got a Saturday
in the
night.
NFL playoffs. So,
that's
to have a big long sports day.
And the NFL playoffs are heading this way. So, man, we've got so much good stuff to talk about. I don't want to take you off your agenda.
Yeah, it's difficult to pick stuff. But going back to that West Kentucky Hoops Classic, I thought the Tigers played well, even though they lost twice.
They did.
There was some discussion before that game against Memphis Ridgeway that the Tigers would have trouble competing with them. And Ridgeway was a really good team, and I like their nickname, the Roadrunners.
Roadrunners, yeah.
But it was a 9-point game. I thought Caldwell played well.
They did.
Sometimes you play well and you just don't win. Then they played another team later on the next day, Dyersburg, Tennessee. And I thought coming into the thing that maybe that was a game the Tigers could get. But Dyersburg played really well the first day, beat a good Corinth, Mississippi team. But again, the Tigers had a chance in that game, had a lead late before losing it and losing a close game. But again, I thought the Tigers played well. I thought there were a lot of good players out here. And we talked so much about the academies bringing the big guys in, and they were fun to watch. But I still say the Strickland kid from Corinth is as good as anybody that has played here the last 2 years, I think. I mean, he's a guard, but he's got some hops. He can make a jumper. He can get to the basket. He can flush it when he gets there. Yeah. He's that good. I think Morehead State's getting a really good player in him, and I'm glad he was here and we were able to see him play the last 2 years because just that entire team plays, with such a motor, and his motor is running the whole time, and I really like those players.
I like that type of player as well now. And I wouldn't know. I'm not much of, I was busy, with the broadcast things that we were doing. I did get to spend some casual time watching some of these teams, but did you notice any type of scouting in the stands while you were out there? Did you?
I know there were a couple of coaches there looking. I'm not sure exactly who, and I know there were a lot of, I guess you call them those recruiting type places. Sort of the media.
Yeah.
There was a lot of video posted on Twitter and things of a lot of the academy kids.
Yeah, exactly.
There were some stories written. Darian Boyd for Caldwell County was mentioned as one of the top players in one of those stories that I tweeted out or retweeted.
I saw that.
So
him and another player, as far as maybe I saw that they were the leading scorers of the tournament. Right?
He and Strickland were the two top scorers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then there was another pretty significant story that had 5 or 6 players listed, and of course it had the Bassey kid from Aspire and some of the other bigger kids, but it also had Boyd listed as one of the top players. So that's pretty good exposure to have somebody that can be accessed by everybody on Twitter, and I know a lot of coaches probably look at a lot of that recruiting stuff, so it's good to get your name out there.
It certainly is. And Bassey was certainly flashy at times. But in my opinion, he seemed a little lethargic at times as well.
The first game especially, and you don't know how much traveling these guys do. I mean, that has to take a little bit of a toll on you to come in and play someplace because they're going all over the country all the time. The second game, I thought he played really well and was a lot more assertive.
Yes, he was.
So maybe you can just give that first day to some
maybe
jet
some
lag.
Traveling, just some tired legs or something. Yeah, but all in all, again, kudos to all the organizers. Torrey Hammett and his group. That what a nice tournament they put together. All the sponsors. It takes a lot of people to put that together. Our school administrators and the Caldwell County school system as a whole, because you're out there and you see this is a holiday time during break, and you see administrators and teachers and athletic directors and assistant directors out there, and they're all involved.
And thank goodness for the hospitality room because that kept me going for 2 days.
Yeah, man. Todd came out with plates of fried chicken. I looked over there and said, man, that looks good. He said, well, it's right down there. So.
Oh, yeah.
But I was in the mood for a hot dog.
There wasn't a lot of time to do anything else. I mean, the games were about 10 or 12 minutes apart, and I think I was there for 13 hours the first day because we did our show.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then about 11 hours the second day. So
you had the full day the first day. I didn't have a full day the first day, but the second day I was pretty much there the whole time. I left for a few minutes.
There were 3 Caldwell games the second day, the 2 girls games and the 1 guys game, and the way they were spaced out, you really couldn't come and go.
No, you couldn't. But I tell you, and as we mentioned before the thing, it's it's fun to have basketball on during the day, whether you're attending, whether you're listening, whether you're broadcasting. But there's just something cool. There's a comforting feeling when you have sports on during the day. I don't know what it is. It just makes the day a little different, a little bit more fun.
Well, we had some good crowds for the Caldwell County games. Unfortunately, when you bring in some of those academies from places like Houston and North Carolina,
it's hard to travel.
They just don't bring very many people, and I was really hoping that we'd get more of the the crowd that doesn't really have a rooting interest that would maybe show up and see some of these teams. But the big draw was Aspire, and the Bassey kid, I think, is the big kid that everybody's looking at for next season. But they've already been down here once for the Marshall County tournament, the Hoop Fest. They'll be back down this way again. Is it next week for the Mustang Madness at McCracken County?
Yeah, that's in McCracken.
So everybody has so many chances to see them that sometimes
it takes a little bit. It could take a little bit.
Yeah.
It could take a little bit away, or they say, well, we can't make this trip. We'll see them this other trip.
But the crowds, I thought, were consistent.
Yes.
There was never a really big crowd like a packed house for one game. But I noticed even that first Caldwell County game at 11 a.m. the first day, I thought there was a pretty good crowd for 11 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think the organizers did a good job of promoting the event. We certainly tried to help. I know the paper did, and you can lay it out there, try to get the word out as much as you can, and then just hope that they come.
But overall, I thought everything went great, and
I did too.
Looking forward to seeing what they line up for next season.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and again, congratulations to all them, all the organizers, and just thank you so much for bringing a nice tournament to our town.
And again, the Lady Tigers at home tonight.
Yes.
8-4 on the season. Got a chance to win tonight, get a district win, the first 7th district game of the season for the girls, and of course the guys getting their first district win over at Dawson Springs the other night.
Good way to start. District
both
play
teams,
is underway.
Both teams playing here Saturday, so a good chance. And then Tuesday, I think both teams are here against Madisonville North Hopkins.
I believe that is correct, and we will have that home doubleheader here for you on the Tiger as well. So we've got a big month planned of coverage.
Madisonville guys are playing pretty well. They beat Hopkinsville the other night. The girls are struggling a little bit. The 7th District girls this year is a lot like that second region All-A Classic we talked about. I think that thing's wide open. I could see Caldwell County winning it, or Hopkins County Central winning it, or Madisonville riding the ship and pulling that thing out. So it's going to be fun next 2 months.
It really is, and I don't know. I've really enjoyed covering the basketball this year, and look forward to every time you get a chance to be in the gym. Yeah, it's going to be cold out there tonight, but it's warm inside the gym, trust me. And it's just a fun atmosphere to be out at the Cab.
Well, and talking about the guys, you look at their record and they're 6-7. But that's
they're
a pretty
better,
solid 6-7.
They're solid 6-7. Yeah.
There's been 2 or 3 games they maybe could have pulled out, but they've played a stiff schedule early in the season, and I would rather be 6-7 and be tested the way they've been than to have 10 or 11 wins but not have played anybody yet. I think the Tigers are in good shape for some of these tough games coming up.
I do too.
But they'll have their hands full with Webster County. They've already played them once this year. It was a 3-point game over there. 64-61,
They had that last second sort of a three that.
And Caldwell County played really well
They
that
did.
night, just didn't get the win. And then Madisonville right behind it, and Madisonville's kind of quietly moving into the top of the region rankings. And if anybody's going to bust up that 8th district hold on the second region championship this year, it might just be Madisonville.
The Maroons, yeah. No doubt about it. But yeah, a big couple of months coming up, fun couple of months of basketball, and then we'll head right on into baseball.
And last night, I'm sure, was a big night for Kentucky Wildcat basketball fans with a win at LSU, 74-71. And on the surface you might think, well, big deal. LSU wasn't ranked very high. They were, I think, actually picked last in the SEC, but they've actually been a little better than everybody thought they might be.
Yeah.
And first true road test
that was a
last
road
night
game.
for
That's
Kentucky.
tough to go down there in the bayou and get
I
that
think
one.
SEC road games this year,
They're brutal.
for the last several years, they're worth their weight in gold to get a win on the road because, let's face it, everything is against you, and it seems like you start the game in a 10-0 hole, and you don't get a lot of calls on the road.
No, you're right.
For a Kentucky team that I think is still trying to find itself, that was a really big win to get to 2-0 in the SEC. Another big game coming up, like we mentioned, at Tennessee Saturday night. Tennessee, I think it's lost its last 2 games, but still ranked in the top 25. So that'll be another big test. If Kentucky can get through those games, it has a chance to really run off a nice streak to start the season in conference and maybe put some distance between itself and everyone else, right away in the conference chase.
Yeah, and I did not see the game. I heard just a little bit of the summary this morning on KNN, but I think you have to look at that as a great win for a team that's still trying to find itself.
Well, and LSU had a lead going into the second half, and I know if you look on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and the Big Blue Nervous Nancy's were out last night over that one, but
oh yeah,
but,
Nervous Nancy's, I love it.
Yeah. But the Kentucky Wildcats were able to kind of find themselves, and I thought Gilgeous Alexander played a great second half, and he's not De'Aaron Fox, but he's really quick. He has a quick first step. He can get to the basket, and that's what Kentucky did. They quit relying on all those jump shots and three-pointers.
And they went more inside
and started just taking the ball to the basket, and Shea can not only create his own shot, but create shots for others, and he set up P.J. Washington a couple of times for some nice dunks, and Washington was able to, be patient when he got the ball inside, let people go by him, and then go up and slam it down. And I think that shows some signs of maturity that the Wildcats are starting to pick up. And, of course, I think Knox had a double-double last night, and he's been sort of the guy for most of the first part of the season, but I think that Gilgeous Alexander is the guy that is eventually going to make that team go. And if you can keep all these other guys improving, well, we'll see where they are in 2 months.
Yeah, he had 18, and, Washington had 14. Washington had 18 points as well. So, that's pretty darn good night for both those guys.
And just able to pull that game out down the stretch. Again, you're on the road. It's a situation that team really hasn't faced this year in a true road environment, but able to gut it out toward the end. And, again, these Calipari teams are never going to look polished, I guess is the best word, because they're bringing all these new guys in and they're trying to work together. And we mentioned earlier that it sometimes looked like an AAU team where everybody's going to get their shots. But I think they're starting to share the ball a little better and look for each other. And I think they're definitely in a lot better shape now than they were a month ago. I think even 2 or 3 weeks ago they might have lost last night's game. But I think they just show signs of, at least small improvements anyway.
Did you get to hear of any of Coach's post-game? Did you hear any of his
No,
comments?
I didn't get to listen to any of it, but
It'd be interesting to take his take, because it's never quite up to par when he talks.
Well, no, and like I said, there's some things they could have done differently, I thought, down the stretch, and even at the very end of the game, there's 0.8 seconds left. LSU's taking the ball out down by 3. I'm not really sure why, if you're the defense in that situation, you don't just put everybody around the 3-point circle. If they inbound the ball underneath and put in a 2-pointer,
2 points,
so what?
So what, yeah.
The only thing that beats you is a 3, and LSU ended up getting a pretty decent look, when there's less than a second to go and you get a good look at it. A shot didn't go and Kentucky held on, and LSU shot the ball a lot better in the first half than they did the second half last night, but maybe part of that is because Kentucky's defense was a little better in the second half than it was the first half. And, again, to me, the biggest thing was Kentucky attacking the basket a lot better after the break, and I think that's something they have to do. And
you think
and
we'll
even
see that more?
I think that's the game plan. I'm not sure why it doesn't always happen, but
you think that is the game plan?
I do. I think they're trying to get the ball to the basket, and sometimes they just kind of
the defense
relax
them and they just stay out there and just throw up those jumpers.
Well, I think those guys are so used to when they played in high school or their AAU team or whatever, when they were open, they're used to letting that fly.
Yeah.
they're not used to
Right.
looking for that better shot or looking for a teammate. So I think it takes a little while to get that habit,
Gotcha.
for lack of a better term, out of your system.
I see it.
To
Yeah.
where you look for that better shot, you attack the basket, you set up the big guys. I think sometimes, even looking back the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, Kentucky sometimes forgets that it has a really big guy or two inside that it can go to, and it ends up being just a guard game. And I think sometimes you have to just force the ball inside, and you end up getting better looks outside. If you kick the ball in and the defense collapses, the guy can kick it back out to
Right.
you, and then you get a good look at a shot without somebody right in your face.
That's exactly right. Well, good road win for the Cats, and let's see, they have who do they have next here?
It's
They've
at
got
Tennessee,
Tennessee, yeah, at
And
Tennessee.
it's an 8 o'clock game
Yeah.
Saturday night on the SEC network.
Yeah. So, great road game for the Cats. And last night in Nashville, Eli
Lipscomb
Pepper had
with a
good-
big game,
They
yeah.
had a big win over Fisk University there,
Yeah.
and of course,
The good
two
thing about
hometown
Nashville,
teams,
yeah, you can play games and never have to leave Nashville.
Yeah. But Eli had a good game last night.
12 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, a block shot.
Yeah.
Pretty good night and a 99-53 win. And Lipscomb finishes the non-conference season 10-5, and I think the 10 wins, I think I read, are the most they've ever had in the non-conference
Yeah.
season.
And they played some good teams tough.
And you look at the losses, I think Texas, they lost at Purdue.
Yeah.
There's another big game in
Tennessee. Did they
Yeah,
play?
it was Tennessee. They did lose
yeah,
to
they lose to
Tennessee.
Tennessee, but they went down. Yeah.
there. So, I mean, they've played some really good teams on the road, and sitting there 10-5. Now, Fisk, I think, is an NAIA school.
Yeah, I think so.
So Lipscomb was pretty heavily favored in that one, and 99-53 was the final score. But still a chance to, have a good night.
You need those
get some
games every now and
stats.
then, yeah.
And then they play Saturday at Kennesaw State, which
Yeah.
I believe is a conference game.
I think so.
That's at 3:30, and if you're watching online, you can see that on ESPN 3.
Yep.
So
Yeah. So good job for those, and it's kind of fun to follow hometown talent as it plays at the next level, and so.
I think Eli is pretty entrenched in that starter's role, and
I
he's
do
getting
too.
his 22 minutes a game. And
Yeah.
the points come and go a little bit, but
Yeah.
the rebounds are always there. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we put too much of a premium on points. I like those guys that go out and you can just count on them to
And
get
contribute.
double-digit rebounds.
Yeah.
Those rebounds are just as good as points sometimes.
No doubt about it, and it's fun, and I know it's nice to have that hometown connection, no doubt about it. And that was going up to they played Purdue pretty tough up there. They had some times.
It was
in
a
the
close
first half,
game into the second half. It kind of got away from them toward the end,
Exactly.
but again, you look, it was at Texas, at Purdue, at Tennessee. I mean,
it's a huge advantage.
those games pay off later on.
They do.
I think when you go into the season, if you're Lipscomb, you're not really looking at those as potential wins
No.
as much as you're looking at a chance to grow. I mean, sure, we'd all like to win every game.
Yeah.
We always talk about that nobody ever wants to lose, but there's a lot more to be gained from those kind of games. And, again, everybody needs an easy win. You can't go out and play a tough team and get beat every night, so it was good to get the win over Fisk.
Yeah.
But you've got to have those games in there early to challenge yourself.
I got to ask you about Fisk. What's their mascot?
Oh,
you know?
I don't know. We'd have to look that up.
Oh man, I can't believe I caught you off guard. I was just curious about that. It seems like I don't know. I want to say Bulldogs, but I don't know if that's right or not.
I want to say I got lost in Nashville one time and ended up around Fisk
Oh yeah.
University.
If you come in on 41, coming from here, you'll go right through campus for the most part. I got to look that up. It's trouble.
It's not the first time I've been lost in Nashville, but
No, me neither. But yeah, if you come in, I got off the interstate the other day going down there and went on 41, and you go right through there. Here, let's see. I want to see what their mascot is. I don't know if I can find it or not, but anyway, we'll find it here before we might take a break.
you talk about Nashville sports, and you've got Lipscomb and Belmont right there, a couple of miles apart, and Tennessee State, Vanderbilt. You can put together a pretty good schedule and never leave the city.
You surely can, and there's not so bad. I don't know. I'll find it in a second, Todd. It just bothers me that I stymied you, man. But I don't know what it is, but we'll find it here in just a little bit. But
I've actually seen it. I can't believe I can't remember
I
it.
see the logo on there. I put Fisk University. I was trying to put a mascot, and I know it's probably something very simple, but We'll say it is the Bulldog. I
Oh,
was
wow.
right.
Good call.
Oh, wow. I can't believe it. I got one right. But, yeah, the Fisk Bulldog is what it says. So, all right. Cool. But, yeah, and a minute ago when we were talking about local sports, don't mean to change gears too much. We talked about Dylan Gray. The wrestling team's doing quite well. They were up at the Windsor Invitational, I think, this past weekend. And I think they finished 11th up there, but Dylan's only lost, I think, one match, as you had in the paper there, at the 182-pound class.
Yeah, he's won 182 the last 2 tournaments, so
Yeah.
and at 19-1, pretty good season going.
I'd say so, and, of course, this is his senior year. He always makes a deep run, normally does, and, of course, he gets
last year he wrestled at 160 and was the regional champ and made it to the state semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
I think finished 4th or 5th.
I think so.
I can't remember.
Somewhere
one of
around
those
there. Yeah.
in the state tournament. And
Jessica might text me here in a minute.
Of course, this year he's wrestling 182, which is weird because the preseason rankings came out and he was one of the top wrestlers at 170.
Yeah, 170, yeah.
So he's kind of went from 160 to 170 to 182 now, but apparently this is the class he needs to be in. He's defeated the kid from Christian County in the finals the last 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And that kid was a state placer last year, so that's pretty good showing.
I've seen them wrestle before. They have a huge, that they seems like they're always the guys that are kind of meeting there at some of these duels and tournaments there. And Dylan seems to have gotten his number at least the past couple of times, and I'm sure they'll meet again at some point.
Caldwell County is wrestling this weekend at the Father Ryan Invitational in Nashville.
Yeah.
So Nashville's coming up a bunch today.
It is, and we wish those guys luck. We've got several wrestlers. The Walls young men are doing really well. The Jones band, Tristan Traylor, is that his name?
Tinsley.
Tristan Tinsley, yeah. So all those guys are doing really well, and we continue to wish them much success as they continue their season on the mats.
All right, we've got some top fives coming up tonight
or
today.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back. And,
all right,
get back.
we're going to tease it a little bit.
Let's tease it. Go ahead.
It's our top 5 science fiction movies, our favorite top 5 science fiction.
We're a little geeky, both of us anyway, so we like science fiction.
We were going to do top 5 movies, but then we decided there was no way we were ever paring that down to 5.
No.
So we may do our
we'll
top
have categories.
5. We'll do science fiction movies this week, maybe our top 5 sports movies next week, and maybe at some point we'll tackle the overall aspect.
Yeah, that's going to be really tough.
This was tough.
10. Yeah, this was tough. I mean, I thought about it, and then I kind of let it go, and then I thought when you came in here, I thought, well, I'll jot them down real quick at the last minute and see if they. And it's pretty consistent, I think, with what I thought when I was pondering it, because I did. I was thinking about it. I had a ride to Evansville yesterday, and I was thinking about it on the way home, and I said, okay, I'm happy with this. So we'll take a short
break. So I'm
break.
sure everybody's sticking around now, waiting for that.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Okay, it's 9:32. We're halfway through the show here, and we will take a short break. We'll be back with our top 5 science fiction music. You listen to the Sideline Report here on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger. Back in a moment. Here's a reminder from your Princeton Electric Plant Board. Meter tampering is dangerous. Tampering with an electric meter is not only dangerous, it is dishonest and against the law. Stealing electricity by tampering with an electric meter may result in your arrest and can even risk your life. Tampering with meters results in increased utility bills that everyone has to pay. If you see anyone tampering with an electric meter, call the Princeton Electric Plant Board right away at 270-365-2031. Princeton Electric Plant Board, Princeton's #1 energy source.
New car buyers, listen up. We need to move our new car and truck inventory fast, and we need your trade. At Tri-Seas Incorporated, we know the dollar is tight, but there's never been a better time to buy a new vehicle. With fantastic rebates, low rates, awesome trade allowance, and 7 American car lines to choose from, Tri-Seas Incorporated is sure to fit you with the perfect vehicle at a price that's pleasing. And as always, if we don't have what you want on our lot, we'll find it for you. Don't go out of town for a good deal. Stay in town for a great deal. Tri-Seas Incorporated, where your trade is worth more.
And at 9:34, we're back here on Tiger Talk here on your hometown radio station. Ty Engelbright, along with Todd Griffin, sports editor of the Times Leader. And Todd, this was tough.
It was. Putting together this list was really tough, and I think every time we have a top 5, we come back a week later and think, oh, man, I forgot about that. But
there's no doubt about it. I think you led off last week, so
I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go first, and I've got 2 here. And the first one is Star Trek. This is for 5. Ty. Star Trek: Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
And the movie Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, wow.
I put that one in there. I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but I was kind of a fan of the series for a while. I mean, Lauren Green is your head honcho, and then you got
he was
the two
always awesome.
Yeah, you got the two pretty boys. You got Starbuck and
Apollo.
Yeah. So
I hate that I was able to kick that out so quick.
Man,
but.
But there was something kind of cool about it. It was cheesy in a way, but didn't have quite the special effects as some of the other movies did, but. The series, it was a movie first, I think, and then a series, or maybe, but there was something intriguing about it to me. I think the story overall was pretty cool, and so that's kind of my 5.
The Wrath of Khan at number 5. I'm anxious to hear the rest of your list now.
Yeah, I'm a Lucas guy.
Okay, my number 5 is going to be a movie that probably nobody has ever heard of before. It's called The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
I've heard of it, yes.
Buckaroo Banzai for short. It's one of those movies that you either love it when you see it or you think it's the dumbest movie you've ever seen, and there's no in between.
I got to watch it.
So
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
I loved it. It's got an all-star cast: Peter Weller, John Lithgow, Christopher Lloyd, Jeff Goldblum, Ellen Barkin. I mean, it just goes on. And again, it's really quirky. It's really interesting. Again, it's one of those movies you watch it and you think, wow, that's the most awesome thing ever.
The dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Or you watch it, what was that? That's my number 5.
Buckaroo Banzai. I remember it. I saw bits and pieces of it, and I just never did captivate my attention.
And you can tell by my entire list that I grew up in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, yeah. We're both children of that era. And believe it or not, here's my number 4, and it is the first Star Wars.
Wow.
That started it all.
Called Star Wars.
Star Wars, 1977. Yep. And I was in 4th grade, and it just, to see something like that for the first time, all the special effects, and it just, and here we are. I'm pushing 50, and I'm still into it.
It started everything.
Yeah. So that's on my number 4 on my list.
Right. My number 4 is Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
Yeah.
I just think it's a fun ride. If you're a Star Trek fan, everything you want in a Star Trek show is in that movie. It's the 4th movie, and number 2 had been pretty deep, The Wrath of Khan, and then 3, The Search for Spock, got even deeper.
I like The Search for Spock.
And so 4 was just kind of it was a fun ride. It was just back to good storytelling. I think that's what Star Trek was always all about, and so I've got it at number 4.
And, it was cool. What's about those movies, and I could have put some of those because I really like those as well. It was cool for the cast of the old 60s show to be back in the 80s,
oh, yeah.
Doing those movies, those full-length movies. It was cool.
And the thing about Star Trek 4 is they actually came back to Earth
That's
at
right.
present time, which when you go back and watch the movie now was 30 years ago, so it kind of looks dated in some ways,
Right.
but they were in,
San
Francisco in the 80s.
And, yeah, they were, and it was pretty cool, and it was kind of fun how they dealt with the technology.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And, but if you noticed, no cell phones then.
Well, there's one
There's
other
one
thing.
of it, yeah.
There's one other thing missing from Star Trek 4. One of the main characters, I think, if you think about it, there's no Enterprise.
There's not, is there?
The Enterprise got destroyed in
sure did.
3.
Yeah.
So they're in a Klingon ship the whole
That's
time.
exactly
So
right.
so the Enterprise not there, but still, it's just a really good movie.
It is. That's the one. That's
If you don't like Star Trek, I think you would still like this movie.
No, I think you're probably right because it's got a good story too about humanity and that kind of thing. Really,
Yes.
That's one with the whales, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a good story there about taking care of the earth and
Oh, yeah.
valuing humanity. So yeah, I think that's a good choice. It certainly is. Okay, I'm back to Lucasfilms at number 3, and it is Return of the Jedi.
Wow.
You can tell I'm just and I think for that one, it was kind of cool to see the redemption of Darth Vader in that one, and when it came out, you thought that was it.
Oh yeah, that was going to be the last one. That was the end of the trilogy.
Yeah, that was the end of the trilogy. So you thought it was it, and so boy, it was kind of cool, and then you see Darth Vader on a pyre, where he's getting burned in the end of the film. Hope I didn't. Surely I didn't spoil that for anybody.
Spoiler alert from
Spoiler
40 years
alert
ago.
from 40 years ago. But and you got to see his redemption, and so that's number 3 for me.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
My number 3 film is actually Star Wars.
Okay.
Again, it's the one that started it all.
Yep.
I think The Empire Strikes Back is probably a better movie, but I think Star Wars, without that, I mean, to me that was the big phenomenon. The whole thing
It got
blowing up, and just again, if you have that movie, it kind of you don't have any of the other movies. So, and just even today, like you mentioned, we still reference that movie, and the movies are still going. As a matter of fact, if you're just talking best movies in the Star Wars saga, I think Rogue One might be there.
I watched,
Just for movies?
Me too.
I mean, you kind of knew how that movie had to end.
Yeah.
Because of the way the whole thing was set up and the time frame, but my number 3 is Star Wars.
Yeah, and I failed to mention I saw Star Wars at a drive-in theater the first time. I saw
wow!
It. Yeah, in Lake Wales, Florida. But so yeah, I mean, so you're 3 with that. I'm 4 with that. And I really debated putting Rogue One in there because man, that's a solid, and it sort of helped. You knew how it all went down,
right?
But you get to finally see it in action. But I did not put Rogue One. I put number 2 is The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh wow!
Because it is considered probably the best out of the original trilogy.
I think so,
and maybe even the best out of all of them so far.
Which is weird because usually your second show in a trilogy is just the get me from the first movie to the third movie show. So the fact that it's considered probably by most Star Wars fans as the best movie says a lot.
And I think there are several factors in that. I think it was just the story was put together very well. And then, of course, you really get to see the Skywalker saga unfold. I don't know if it, being in 4th grade when this movie first came out, being our age, I don't know if you have the level to think, well, maybe there's a connection between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. But really, and I don't think Mark Hamill knew when they were filming this scene. From what I understand and everything I've read, he was not sure of they never tested the dialogue.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I just read an article that he had found out right before they filmed the scene that was going to happen.
And one of the most misquoted lines in movie history, where Darth Vader never says, "Luke, I am your father."
No, he doesn't.
That line is never uttered. But
not Luke, I am your father.
Right.
No. You're exactly right. But that's a pretty heavy, dramatic scene for Star Wars fans that, here is, they've had this incredible lightsaber duel.
Yeah.
Darth Vader has cut off Luke's hand. The lightsaber has gone down to the abyss down there out of this. So
I think Darth Vader asked Luke if he was ever told about his father.
Yeah, he never told about him. He
said, "You killed my father," and
he goes,
"No, I am
your father." That's exactly right. So it's pretty dramatic, and
so it's like "Play it again, Sam." It was never actually said.
Exactly.
Movie history. Right?
That's great movie history. So anyway, that's mine.
So that was your number 2.
That was my number 2.
My number 2, I'm not really sure if it's a sci-fi movie at all. It's Planet of the Apes, the original.
I know. I think
that might be real.
No. It's yeah. I mean, I tell you what. I thought about putting that one on my list because you talk about the original.
Yes, the original.
No, I was a Planet of the Apes kid. I had those. I don't know if you remember when we were kids, but they had Planet of the Apes dolls, and they had those. Do you remember any of those?
Barely.
I used to have those in GI Joes, but man, that is a fantastic movie. That was Charlton Heston. That was like 68, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think it was 68. Definitely Charlton Heston.
It was 68.
And I had to have him on here. I mean, I wanted to put something like Soylent Green on here, but I think Planet of the Apes is the better movie.
Roddy McDowall.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just and one of the best swerves at the end of any movie ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
when they pan over there and you see the Statue.
Oh
of
yeah,
Liberty.
the Statue. Well, again, hoping not to give anything away if you haven't seen the movie, from however long ago that was, 50 years ago.
That's the year of my birth.
So, but yeah, I mean, when you realize, oh man, they've been on Earth the whole time, so it's
no,
just a great movie.
Yeah, and I think that one hits you in the gut. when you
And so
see
many
that.
great lines in that movie that you remember, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. One comes to my head.
the whole take your
Yeah,
stinking
yeah,
paws
yeah.
off of me. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the one I always think of.
yeah, that's the one. We'd had to put the Howard Stern rule in place if we said it.
But that's my number 2.
That's awesome. That's a good choice. I'm kind of mad now that I didn't put it on my list. Now you're gonna think I'm crazy
Okay.
for my number 1, but I did this for I guess there's a sentimental reason for this, and I can't be able to explain it, but I liked Revenge of the Sith.
Oh wow.
And I tell you why. I was always fascinated with Darth Vader.
Okay.
You always knew the story. I loved seeing his transformation unfold on the big screen. There were parts in there. It's not considered one of the better Star Wars movies. It's one of the second trilogy. It's number 3 of the second trilogy, the prequel, so to speak.
But
we'll
you do
call
get
it.
to see the beginnings of Darth Vader.
Yeah, you got to see the beginnings of Darth Vader, and I think to see the interaction between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi and how he actually became Darth Vader, how he fell. To me, it's pretty powerful stuff, and it's sentimental to me. So that's why I chose it. It stirs. It's still, if you like Star Wars, to me, it really stirs the emotion of the films and what it all means. Because really, I think
sets up Star Wars.
I think when it comes down to it, the Star Wars trilogy, and I think we'll see this in this next movie. It's all about Darth Vader. It really is. I think we'll see. I don't think we're through with Darth Vader yet.
Oh,
in
wow.
these from everything that I can indicate. From everything I'm reading, so it's all about Darth Vader. Trust me.
Okay, so my number 1, and we've already talked about the movie. It's Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. How do you not go?
That's
It's
awesome.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
And he brings back the role from the TV show.
He does.
And how many people think of Star Trek and think of Khan, and he was only ever in 1 episode
Yes.
and 1 movie.
And
But people relate that to Star Trek, and that's just how great the character was, that he had such limited screen time, but everybody remembers it.
Yeah, it remembers that, but the writing, I think, of both the show he was in and then the movie, the story was just so good, and the revenge factor between he and Kirk, and they had been at each other, and it's all about I'm going to get you back,
And Khan, again, just Ricardo Montalban,
Oh,
who
man,
was,
he plays it
was in some of the Planet of the Apes movies, by the way,
Yeah.
Among other things.
He's also, I am Mr. Rock, your
Yes.
host. Welcome to Fantasy Island.
But Khan was such a great character, though, because he had this strength, but he was also intellectual. Even at the very end,
Highly
he's
intelligent.
quoting Melville as
Yeah.
he's dying and the
As he-
ship's blowing up. It's
Exactly.
it's awesome, and to me, that's another thing in Star Trek. I think the works of Melville, especially the Moby Dick thing, ends up in a bunch of movies.
It does. Obviously, Roddenberry had to be just a huge fan.
Somebody was.
Somebody was, yeah. But and yeah, it's really neat to see how, and that's what's so fun about films. These films, you can look at these Star Wars films. Yes, it's about good and evil, and there's so many metaphors and different things you can watch and see, and it's even fun. And I think that's why they're so timeless, because every generation can watch them and find something in there to pull out of them, a lesson. Not only just for the entertainment factor, but there are lessons in these stories.
And there's a whole Moby Dick speech in First Contact with the Next Generation cast, which I can't believe didn't make my top 5 because it's one of my favorite movies. But again,
I'm not near the Trekkie you are.
It was difficult paring it down to 5.
Oh yeah,
But First Contact, as far as the Next Generation cast, that was by far the best movie they did.
Did Spaceballs not make your?
Oh man, I wanted to. I thought about it.
I love Mel Brooks.
I mean,
but you can go back and you can talk about some other thing. Dune with Sting was a pretty cool movie. But you can go back to the 20. I guess science fiction. The movie from the 20s, from like the 20s, Metropolis. That's interesting.
I actually thought about that movie. I've tried to make it through that movie a couple of times and just never quite got all
Yes.
the way through it. Visually, it's stunning.
It is.
I guess I'm just
for the times, especially.
I guess I'm just, if you were in the 20s watching it, it would be awesome because that's the way you would expect to watch a
Exactly.
movie. It's difficult to go back now and watch a silent movie and get the same experience out of it you would had then. But Metropolis is widely considered one of the best movies. Forget science fiction.
Exactly.
One of the best movies
of all
ever.
time. Yeah. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Same deal. I mean, you could go on and on.
I like the new Planet of the Apes movies. I thought
I
the
did
last one
too.
was superb.
I did too. I did, yeah. And I like a lot of the new Star Trek movies. I do like those. I mean, they're not quite as good as some, but there's some good quality. It's kind of neat to see young James T. Kirk.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
it's a different take on it.
It is.
You almost have to modernize the story some way.
Yeah.
I wish they would have gone a little different way, but
Yeah, when
hey,
you got
whatever.
Beastie Boys and some of the you got
well, that's
singers.
okay. But I'll
Yeah.
go with that. But
Yeah.
some of the other things, it's almost gone overboard. To me, Star Trek is about the stories, and it's about a hopeful future.
Yeah.
When you make everything special effects and
Yeah.
everybody's a bad guy or a villain or has an agenda,
Yeah.
it kind of takes away from what the original purpose of Star Trek was.
Totally understand that.
But
Certainly do.
it's a heck of a list.
Yeah. Love your list, and you can tell I'm more. I like science fiction movies. I've seen a lot, but in my for me, it's all about Star Wars, and for really, I mean, I just. I still watch these movies and like their songs. I just play them over and over, and still enjoy watching them.
But we could go on and on about this list all day. This is what was so tough because I knew if we just did favorite movies, I mean, we'd leave out
Yeah.
so many. So you almost
We might
have
have
to
to do a
break
top
it down.
10 of movies.
Yeah.
We might have to.
That may be the ultimate
That may be the ultimate
at the
so.
end. I do have some updates
Let's do
on the
that.
wrestling thing. It looks like, we mentioned earlier Dylan Gray. It looks like he's ranked second at 182 pounds, and the
Awesome.
Level kid from Christian County is
Yeah.
ranked third in that
Dion.
class. Yeah, so that's going to be
They're
they're
gonna
going to see each other all year.
Yeah, they will. But boy, I tell you, if you've never been to a wrestling duel or they are fun to go to. I mean, it's an all-day thing. I mean, you can, if you don't have if you got a kid involved, it's an all-day thing. You're there all day. But man, it is fun. They're fun to watch.
And thank you to former wrestler Tyler Bashir for
the birthday
texting me,
boy
for texting me that information.
Oh, do you know it's his birthday today?
Wow, I did not.
Yeah, it's Tyler's birthday. He's not the Tiger. The random number generator did not pick him. But he's
what is the formula for that?
Well, as you can see, I'm going to let you verify for everybody. My Tigers, you see they're numbered?
Oh, wow.
And I number them, and then I have a random number generator that selects
Really?
a number out
So
of them.
that's how it comes out.
That's how the Tiger of the day is picked. You see their numbers,
Yeah,
correct? Okay.
yeah.
So anyway, that's how I do it.
I thought there was some eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
No, and I can say probably on occasion there has been a failure of the random number generator, and somebody has been picked from time to time for something really great that they've done. I've had some days where I didn't have any birthdays, so I just had to kind of figure out a way to make a Tiger of the day. So it's been very rare. But anyway, so happy birthday to you, Tyler, and the rest of the folks celebrating birthdays today.
Well, some big games coming up. The NFL playoffs are starting. The national championship game is Monday. What do you think about the national championship game?
I think all SEC. I thought that Georgia-Oklahoma game was about an entertaining game. I mean, 2 overtimes, back and forth, lots
it really
of scoring.
felt to me like Oklahoma probably should have won.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there with that last run. I watched it several times. I mean, it's a guy just reeled off a good run, but it was just a basic, play. Not anything fancy about it, and he just.
You get to that point, though, and you're in the second overtime, and you know what's at stake, and you hate that somebody has to lose the game. At that point, you're like, let's just take both teams to the next round.
Yeah, and I know the Mayfield kid gets a lot of heat because of his attitude and his cockiness and some of the trouble he's been in. But he's a heck of a competitor. You got to like that. Heck of a quarterback. I mean, you can definitely see why he's worthy of a Heisman. But I'm a Clemson fan. I've pulled for them for a while. It's hard to beat a Nick Saban team twice. You almost knew coming in there that Alabama was going to be ready for them, and then they managed 2 field goals. And it's a little bit different team than last year's team, but obviously Nick Saban is a brilliant coach. They have players. They executed their game plan, and it just they dominated them.
I want to pick Georgia because
I do
Alabama has had so much success, and you'd kind of like to see somebody else win it, I guess. But Alabama just looked so good on defense against Clemson.
They did, yeah. When you keep Clemson to 2 field goals.
Yeah, and just what was it? I think they had 100 yards at some point in the fourth quarter, and just completely shut them down. And I just think Alabama, now that everybody's healthy and apparently they're really playing well, I think they're just a little better than
tell you
Georgia.
what, though,
even though we know what happened during the season, but I think I would have to go with Alabama.
Georgia, I knew when they got their new coach that they were going to have a good year. That guy's good.
Oh yeah,
and of course they're Georgia, and it's an SEC team, and they're going to get players there. That's all we have. But I'm like you, man. It's Georgia is going to have to play a perfect game and probably have a little bit of luck that they won't be able to turn turnovers. No, it's that type of game. Alabama just is so strong.
Well, the big winner is the Southeastern Conference.
Of course.
You looked at the bowl games, and SEC teams, frankly, struggled in most of the bowl games. So this kind of saved the postseason for the Southeastern Conference. And, everybody wants to say, well, this conference had this record or this conference had this record, and now the SEC's like, it doesn't matter. We have the national championship. So
that's exactly right. Now, I must say, I about attended the UCF Knights. You have to give them some, granted, they're not.
They're probably going to hang a banner for that undefeated season.
Yeah, they should. You got to make an argument that's a pretty good team. Now, I don't know if they should have been in the top 4 just because of who they play, the size school, and that kind of thing. But I'm telling you, that's a good little football team, and congratulations to them. What a great year. I was almost a UCF Knight at one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a big win for them over Auburn in the bowl game, kind of solidifying, their claim.
Oh, that was
be
a good
there.
football team
Yeah.
they beat, and Auburn could have easily been there. So, yeah, I mean, perfect season. I think, they're right there on the bubble.
I'm not sure how you ever take care of everybody, though, because, we went from pairing up what were supposed to be the top 2 teams in the national championship game to saying, well, okay, let's have 4 and have a playoffs. Do you go to 8? Because there's always going to be that one team if you have 8 teams or if you have 16 teams. I mean, you look at the NCAA basketball tournament, there are 68 teams.
Right.
And what's the first thing everybody talks about after the bracket's announced? Who got left out and should have been in there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure you can ever make a playoff system where everyone's going to be happy.
No, I think you're right. But I honestly think that at least for now, it probably works.
I think so. The matchups were pretty good.
You
Alabama handled Clemson a little better than I thought they would.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I really thought Alabama would win that game. I thought it would be Alabama and Oklahoma is what I thought the championship game would be.
Yeah, and I tell you, the Fromm kid for Georgia, he's got definitely a bright future.
But those running backs for Georgia, I mean,
oh yeah,
that's their.
Oh yeah, man, they get but I think that defense in my mind wins ball games. And so I think if Alabama plays defense like they did against Georgia, those guys are going to have a hard time. But we'll see. I mean, Saban's a master, but I think Georgia's coaching staff will have their guys ready, and hopefully they're healthy. I don't know of any injuries. I don't
remember seeing anything about anybody major being out. So,
but that's Monday night. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
And the NFL playoffs are starting. So to kind of put you on the spot, who do you think will play in the Super Bowl?
Let's see. I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they've been solid all year long.
I did before their quarterback got hurt.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I don't.
Yeah, the NFC is the one that's tough. I think in the AFC.
I mean, you got to look at Minnesota.
In the AFC, you got to go with the Patriots until somebody beats them. I think.
Yeah, you got to go with the
Steelers. I think will have a chance.
I was going to say the Steelers maybe, but. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I looked at the AFC and the NFC side, and I was like, man, those are different teams. The Panthers are still kind of there, but the Jaguars, that's kind of cool.
I think New England would be my pick to get there from the AFC.
Do the Vikings had a great year?
Yes. The NFC's tough, though.
It is.
I mean, yeah, I'm like you. I would have gone with Philadelphia if Carson
Wentz
is
would
still
have
the
got
quarterback. Yeah, then they're the team to beat. But right now, I can see a lot of teams. The Falcons, if they can get on a run, are still good enough to get back.
They are.
But they go to the Rams Saturday night, and the Rams have had a great season.
I'm glad for the Rams.
Yeah, you hate.
I know
to see
you got to
teams.
be excited.
Yeah. Well, the Rams are in it, the Steelers are in it, and the Titans are in it. So
Yeah.
I've got reason to watch the playoffs.
Yeah, you do. And I don't know about the Titans. I usually go down to a game or two a year. I did not go down this year. I might not have gone last year. I've just kind of dropped. But I'm glad they made it. The Buffalo Bills are a decent team.
Good for them on getting in. I'm not sure how far they can get.
Exactly. But I like that. I've always kind of for some reason liked the Bills. I don't know why. But
well, you have Buffalo and Jacksonville meeting in a first-round game, so one of them is going to get to advance. And, we didn't mention the New Orleans Saints.
No.
Maybe this is Drew Brees' last shot.
Hurrah, yeah.
So maybe that's something I could see anybody in the NFC
Yeah, I
making
think
a
it's
run at
wide
it.
open. I think it's wide open. But it'll be fun, and, that'll be here. We'll have a couple weeks of rounds of playoffs, and then I guess we don't have a January Super Bowl anymore, do we? Or
Let's
is it
see.
this year?
The Super Bowl is February 4th.
Yeah, it's usually somewhere around early February. So,
and then the USFL season should have been starting right after that, but
that's exactly right. For us that can only dream about the
United States Football League,
the USFL, yeah, and Herschel Walker
and it's been what 32, 3 years since that's been around.
I was a Tampa Bay Bandit, man. Steve Spurrier.
I liked the Breakers, whether they were in Boston or New Orleans or Portland.
Yeah. That's hilarious, but yeah, the little league that could have possibly, but it just wasn't there.
Yeah, I'm not going to name any names, but somebody buried that league.
Messed it up, yeah.
But anyway, the NFL playoffs, the NFC wide open, and I think it's the Patriots and the AFC until somebody beats them.
Well, yeah, I think you're probably right. We'll just have to revisit that as we head into the playoff as in the coming weeks. So it'll be interesting to see.
But 4 good games this weekend in the wild card, and like I said, just Saturday is a busy day. Both Caldwell County teams playing at home, and then the Kentucky Wildcats playing at Tennessee that night, and the playoffs going on. So
yeah, there's a lot of good sports, folks, and we encourage you to come out and see our ladies play tonight at the Cab. The varsity's first now. If you want to
6 o'clock,
they'll tip it off at 6. We'll have that game for you if you can't make it, but definitely encourage you. It's always fun to go out and check out a good basketball game. And then of course Saturday it's 3 o'clock for the ladies and 4:30 for the guys.
I think those are the times. Yes.
Yeah. So and we'll have those for you as well on the Tiger. So. That's going to about wrap it up. You got anything else?
I think we got to just about all of my notes this week, so that's a rarity. But I knew we would I knew we'd spend time on the top 5 movie list, so that's why I didn't have quite as many notes this week.
All right, let me see if I can find the outro here. I keep on there we go, and we'll bring it on out of here. So. And
next week, top 5 sports movies.
Top 5 sports
favorite
movies
sports
next week.
Movies,
yeah,
yes.
Okay. And then that's
I always throw favorite in there because that way we can go wherever we want.
We can go wherever we want to. Yeah, and boy, that's going to be just as tough. There's some good ones out there, but that.
I hate to mention anything to.
No, yeah, we're
to
not
skew
going to
the list.
No, we're not going to mention anything.
But it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. All right. Well, it's 2 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock. Certainly appreciate the Times leader and Todd Griffin, sports editor, being here. The Times leader brings you the Sideline Report each and every Thursday at 9:03. We have a good time, and we certainly would appreciate feedback. If you know our numbers, text us, give us a call here at the station. If you want to hear anything, if you want to tell us anything, reach out to us here.
Email us, or we're on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. Email us, just whatever. Reach out to us, and we'll try to accommodate you in any which way that we can. We certainly appreciate you listening to us here on the Sideline Report. Until next week, tying a bright for Todd Griffin, and we hope you tune in next week at 9:03. It's the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times leader, sports editor Todd Griffin in studio. And everybody have a wonderful Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times leader, Todd Griffin, in studio. To get us up to date on everything Caldwell County sports, so be sure to tune in at 9:03 every Thursday for the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times leader, Todd Griffin, in